busy schedules to join this UEN Advisory Council meeting. Welcome, and thank you for, again, the time that you are willing to give to helping UEN be able to improve and be able to grow and to develop. It's a pleasure to work with you all. I'd like to start today just by doing introductions. It's been a number of months since we have met, and I thought it might be good to just do some very quick, brief introductions. I know we have some that I think are new, and we have a few that maybe not have participated and had a chance in past meetings to get to know everyone. So we will begin, and I will try to help facilitate this a little bit by I'll just go through and start calling people's names and from the list as I see it. And then all we just need is just your name and position and what you do and what role that you play on the UEN Advisory Council. Who do you represent from to UEN? So I'll begin. Rick Gaisford. I'm the Education Technology Specialist at the Utah State Board of Education and currently serve as the chair of the Advisory Council. And I thoroughly enjoy working with each of you, and I also really enjoy working with the UEN team and the great things that they do for education here in Utah. And that our our co-chair or vice chair is Leslie Baker, and she's not able to join with us today. But let's go ahead and begin with Christopher Phillips, and I'll just call people out. Get unmute. Mm-hmm.
Christopher Phillips at Utah State University. My role here is it's a little bit of a long one, Electronic Information Technology Accessibility Coordinator, but I coordinate different from kind of a disability resource center at campuses, but kind of just proactive electronic web, video, LMS accessibility. We do that here at Utah State, but then coordinate with some other people, kind of other institutions across the state on accessibility a little bit. So just representing that space here, the first time in the meeting. So it's good to be here.
Well, thank you, and we appreciate you being here. Tiffany.
Hi. Oops, sorry, yep. I'm gonna have to hang up from you. All right, there we go. Sorry, apparently you can't run two quick meetings at the same time on the same camera. So I'm Tiffany Hall. I am the Executive Director of Teaching and Learning in the Salt Lake City School District, and I'm here to, I think I'm in the Professional Development Advisory seat, and I love being in the seat because the best professional development we ever get is from UEN, and I say to teachers that come in from out of state all the time, this is the best use of our tax dollars you've ever seen. Get in and figure it out. So thank you for being here this morning, Rick. Thanks.
Thank you, Tiffany. Jason.
Hi, I'm Jason. I'm Jason Hill. I'm at Utah Valley University. I'm the Director of Learning Systems. So I manage Canvas and Qualtrics and a few other systems that our faculty use. And I'm representing UTTC.
Thank you, Jason. Jen. I don't know if your microphone's working or not, Jen.
Oh, sorry. I thought you said Jim.
Oh, Jen.
Yeah, Jen Gibbs. I am UET at the UEN operations manager, and I also coordinate our EDI work group.
Thank you, Jen. Kelly.
Hi, I am Kelly Cole, and I am the Director of Strategic Initiatives for UETN.
Thank you, Kelly. Kim.
I'm Kim Seabarth, and I'm the Associate Commissioner for Technical Education for the Utah System of Higher Education. I work with the 8 technical colleges and the 3 degree granting institutions that offer technical education.
Thank you, Kim. Laura.
Hi, it's Laura Banda. I'm the Executive Director of CCID Charter School, and I do have a school going on behind me, so I apologize for the no video right now. I'm representing charter schools. Thank you.
Thank you. And Laura Hunter. I guess I should have noted there was 2 Lauras here on the
My
screen.
apologies.
I love it when that happens. Good morning, Laura Hunter. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for UETN.
Thank you. Marie.
My name is Marie Erickson. I'm a program manager at the State Library, so I'm here representing the Utah State Library.
Thank you. Michael.
Good morning, I'm Mike Shuping, and I am the Director of Administration for UETN.
Thank you, Mike. Oliver.
Hi, I'm Oliver Snow, used to be RC Callahan. If you want to know the details on that, you can ask, but I'm representing Canvas admins and distance learning.
Thank you. Ray.
Yeah, I'm Ray Timothy. I'm the CEO, Executive Director of UETN.
Thank you, Ray. Rich.
Hi, good morning. Happy Friday. I'm Rich Finlinson, the Director of Communication for UETN.
Thank you. Scott.
I'm Scott McCombs, Director of IT for Canyons School District, and I represent the IT directors across the state.
And Susan.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Susan Cohen, Public Relations Specialist for UETN. I work on our communications and public information team.
Thank you. Tom.
Hey, Tom, Cheatham University of Utah, professor in college pharmacy, also director of our Center for High Performance Computing, and I'm here representing research, broadly defined.
Thank you. Tim Benson.
Hi, Tim Benson. I'm at Canyon View High School. I represent the CTE teachers.
Thank you, Tim. Tim Stack.
Yeah, Tim Stack, Web Services at UEN.
And Tony.
Good morning, Tony Pellegrini from Southern Utah University, Department Chair for Teacher Education and representing teacher educators across the state.
Thank you. And supporting us is Denise and Tim, if you want to just say hi real quick.
Hi, I'm Denise. I'm the admin assistant for UETN. Thank you.
Tim Jennings Hill. I'm with UETN Technical Services in video operations, and I'm here to do facilitation and technical support for the meeting.
He's making sure it works.
Yep, I'm the man behind the curtain. Ignore that I exist.
And is there anybody that joined while I was doing all the introductions? I didn't see if I did have an ulterior motive. Now I know all your microphones work, so I know you can all give great feedback today.
Lisa did join us.
Oh, Lisa. Well, sure.
Unmute Lisa, so we can hear you.
Oh, I apologize. Yes,
Talking.
I'm here. This is Lisa. Thank you.
Okay.
Looks like Diana also needs
Oh,
to.
I just saw your text message. Diana? Maybe her microphone's not working. Well, let's go ahead and begin with our meeting. Our first item of business is the approval of the minutes. And these are the minutes from the last August meeting. Some of you may not have been here. Hopefully you've had a chance to look through those, but would quickly entertain a motion to approve the minutes for August of 2021.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Scott. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion or any changes that you see that needed to be made? Hearing none. All in favor of approving the minutes for August of 2021, please say aye.
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 Aye. Are there any opposed? And Diana did mention that she was having a couple of technical issues. Our next item is the meeting schedule for 2022. We are meeting today, and we'll be meeting every other month through the year. And I believe that the board is also considering a retreat, so there might be some adjustment later in the year if they choose to have a full retreat and that. But we'll keep at this point. This is the schedule. We'll be meeting virtually from 8:30 to 10, and please note that the October and November meetings are on Wednesdays. And Laura, is this an action item that we need to approve? See the nod. If someone would anyone would be willing to make a motion to adopt the meetings, the 2022 UEN Advisory Council meeting calendar, I would appreciate that.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. And is there a second?
I can second that motion.
Thank you, Oliver. Is there any discussion to that? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the UEN Advisory Council calendar schedule for 2022, please say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Hearing none, the calendar is adopted. So that is our one action item for today. We'll move into our discussion items, and we're going to begin first with a legislature update. As we all know, they're in the thick of the session right at the moment, and I believe, Ray, you're going to give that?
Yes, I'd be glad to. Do I have the ability to share?
Yes, anyone in the meeting should be able to share.
Okay. Oh, wait a minute. It's running me around. I hit share, Tim, and it says allow WebEx to share your content, open system preferences.
Okay, yeah, you're gonna have to open system preferences and allow WebEx to be able to record your screen.
Okay, Laura, can you pull up it for me so we don't waste time me trying to search for that? Okay, thank you. Can you enlarge it? Okay. Okay, this it's early in the session right now. They have looked at our base budget, and our base budget has been approved, and that means basically what the funding we had from last year that's ongoing would still be part of our budget for this upcoming year. We would at least have it secured, so we're okay there. If they didn't pass a new budget, we still have money to operate on, so we're okay. But this is a summary of what our legislative funding request looks like. And we have been assigned, last year we were assigned to a new committee. And it's the Infrastructure and General Government Committee. Most of them did not know who we were last year, and so I've been working with them on that, and I think they have a much better picture. Lisa and I had the opportunity to go present earlier to them again and show them this funding request. So we basically have three areas that we've been asking for funding. The first area is always growth and operations. We want to make sure that we're able to cover any increased demands that we have. And so if you look at growth and operations, we always need to be able to pay for the new circuits and the new locations that we connect to our network. Every year we have on average 26 new locations, either new schools or new additions to district offices, just different locations. And so we need to be able to pay that monthly circuit costs for those new locations. And that's the ongoing funds that we're asking for under new circuit sites and backbone upgrades. And then there's also the one-time equipment costs for connecting them to the network. And that's the one-time funding request for $300,000. Software, we negotiate statewide licensing, as I think you're well aware. And, like Canvas, Nearpod, things like that, tools that instructors would use. And so those licenses are usually negotiated on a per user basis. And so as we have more students throughout the state, increased usage of the software, we have an increased cost because we're paying per user on that. So and that's an ongoing cost. So that's $900,000 for that software FTE growth. And then filtering, we are required to provide filtering so that that students are safe from inappropriate content. And we are to the point where we need to look at what the filtering tool is that we're using right now, and that costs. And as we have increased usage, we're taking devices home, a lot of utilization. We need to have an increase of funding for filtering, and that's it's an annual cost for that. And then equipment replacement is, we have over $21 million worth of equipment throughout the state. And the industry standard for replacing hardware and equipment is usually 3 to 5 years. And we've never been able to do that. And so we stretch the dollar as far as we can. And we're actually on about a 7-year replacement cycle. And so we are asking for an ongoing appropriation of $3 million to replace that equipment. So that's the growth and operations portion that we're asking for. Then if you look at infrastructure, the backbone of our network, we continue to see increased utilization, and we're asking for one-time funding to help us with that, to be able to meet the demand from our users. And so that'd be $2.5 million for that. And that includes also, we're to the point where our network is extremely sophisticated. We have excellent engineers who've designed it. They know what they're doing. But every once in a while, it's nice to have someone from the outside come and look at what we're doing to make sure that we're not overlooking something. So that's part of that cost as well, is to have some advanced services, to contract with an outside organization to come in and take a look at our total network. Then the third area, these are not for state funds, but we've been involved just like we were with the CARES Act, where we submitted and we put together a statewide plan for the use of CARES Act funding, and we're doing the same with the ARPA funds. And so as we've been working with representatives of the governor's office and making our needs known. Again, just like we did with CARES, we've talked to our stakeholders and put together the funding requests, and that shows the funding request right there. I don't know if you have any additional to add to that, Lisa or Kelly, regarding ARPA.
I don't have anything additional, Ray.
Okay. As far as legislation bills, we've been so busy trying to work with the funding side, making sure that our base budget was approved, and that I haven't been following any bills. I haven't seen any that specifically apply to UETN. So I'm open to any questions if you have any, or that's the end of my report, Rick.
Thank you, Ray. And I have not heard of any bills. That's good news.
Well, I was going to say, yeah, nose news is good news in that regard.
Those are the kinds of things you usually don't want.
That's right.
Any have any questions on the on Ray's presentation, or like any more in-depth information? Is the we're in the I know the and we're right now where UEN is in the nearing the end of a very long process for an RFP on filtering. Is that funding for filtering? Is that part of the ARPA request, or is that to help pay for that?
I don't believe, Kelly, did we, or Lisa, did we put that in through the ARPA? I mean, we've had, it's been a very unusual year, with as much money from CARES and now ARPA. I've lost track.
Sorry, the filtering request?
Yeah, did that go through ARPA? I don't believe it did.
No, it just went through the legislative process. We kind of decided to separate them out and go separately on them.
Okay.
Thank you. Well, since there are no other questions, Ray, I guess unless you have something else to report, thank you.
All right, thanks. Thanks, everyone. We really do appreciate you being part of this advisory council, and we do take your input very seriously. It really helps. Thanks.
Our next presentation or discussion item is report on the EDIA progress, and that will be Dr. Jen Gibbs.
Thank you, Rick. I'm going to share my screen here. Started to share it. And can everybody see supporting our partners?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Well, so we have been busy since August, and one of the things that kept us busiest was our participation as members on the One Utah Council on Equity, Diversity, Inclusion, and Access that is part of the Office of the Governor's work to support equity goals listed on the roadmap for the Governor Cox and Henderson administration. So in this work, UETN provided instructional service and technical service support. And I'm going to kick us off here with a video that our partners there generously agreed to create with us for you.
As a step towards a more inclusive Utah, our administration has committed to learning more about concepts and events that can help us better understand some of our historically marginalized communities.
The 21-Day Challenge was originally created by Dr. Eddie Moore Jr. It's an opportunity for either individuals, teams, organizations to engage in a course where for 21 days they're diving into content that is allowing them to understand how do we do better? How do we serve better? And how do we make sure that no one is left behind when we have the opportunity to transform the outcomes for our communities? What I loved about the process in this was the amount of collaboration that required us to make sure we were inviting people's input at every step of the process. And that is at the heart of what equity is. Nothing about us without us. The response to this challenge has been incredibly positive. The Utah Education Network was a critical partner in this initiative. They had such a dedication to make sure that we were being thoughtful, that we were being compassionate, we were being kind. Our partners at UEN, we could not have done this without you.
This work is necessary for us to continue moving our team and Utah forward in a way that creates an inclusive and accessible community for all we serve, for all who call Utah home.
A little bit about the course. So if you aren't aware, the One Utah Council is an interagency partnership, and the One Utah Council on EDIA focuses particularly on sharing equity efforts, our resources, and other activities in alignment with the One Utah Roadmap. The goal of this course is to provide shared points of reference for productive dialogue. It's not a training. There aren't the specific learning objectives with quizzes or trying to make people agree to think about things a certain way. It's much more focused on saying, you know, we have lots of different folks in our Utah audiences, in our service areas, and how can we better understand what the different points of view may be to help us provide service more effectively. The strategy for the course itself was it was designed to balance self-paced with a cohort model so that coworkers, colleagues can work together and engage in optional online discussion through the Canvas LMS platform. As I mentioned, our role on this project was to help support the instructional goals and provide the technical services like the design of the Canvas course. The course rolled out, we opened on September 20th. 59 senior level leaders from the Office of the Governor participated in that. And Governor Cox held a debriefing session at the end and invited us to join. And it was really amazing to hear the conversation that the cabinet had with him about the course. And again, as Nubia Pena said in the video, the response was really overwhelmingly positive. As of December 20th, we've had 14 UDOT senior level leaders started participating in their own instance of the course, and we have 11 additional Utah state agencies that have requested an instance of the course for their groups. So if you know of an agency that is interested in requesting the challenge, and I can put this link in the chat after I'm done presenting, you know, our recommendations that come from Nubia Pena and our partners is to build the capacity by starting at the leadership level. And then after the leaders have gone through the course, roll it out to staff if that's desired. And then also to be mindful of the timing. The start time and the pace. The start time and the pace to meet your organization's needs, because it really, for this course, you know, it's a commitment of at least 30 minutes a day for the work days that are for the 5 work days of the week. And again, that's by prioritizing that's really critical to having the team get value out of the experience. And last, just everybody who seemed willing to approach the experience with curiosity and open mind. That just really seemed to also enhance the experience. Do you have any questions or comments for me before I go on? So the question that I have for this group, that we have for this group, is we would love to hear what kinds of equity and diversity initiatives your organizations are engaging in, and if you have any suggestions for activities that we could be engaging in, or things that we should be knowing about.
Jen, it's Laura. One of the things that I was struck by is the many organizations that have come up with specific plans or strategic initiatives and made a written commitment in that way. And I know that you were starting to do a crosswalk between the USHE and USB and what we're looking at UETN. Do you want to say anything about that? Or I would recommend you say something about that.
Sure. So we've been looking at some of the public facing statements and documents that are that are available in the field, and one that we actually were looking closely at was one of our public media peer stations has on their public facing website the actual stats of a comparison showing the demographics of their community, of their service area, and the demographics of their board. And we thought that was really helpful for transparency to be placed out there. And additional activities that we've participated in since August, we now have 3 fellows from the in the Public Media Diversity Leaders Initiative through Furman University. And we're also continuing to work on building capacity to do an even better job of addressing the accessibility needs of our audiences as they engage with our many, many electronic publications. Laura, was there anything else that you wanted me to touch on?
That helps too. Hi.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, that helps because I was just going to speak up about, we just have a huge part of our planning initiatives at Weber State University is with EDI. And right now it's very siloed because it's in the different colleges and they're doing their own efforts. But I know there is a call for more practical solutions, especially in the course design area. And items that just come to mind are like, of course, accessibility, but also use of pronouns, also use of imagery and other things in presentations to make sure that you're representing different groups, different family structures. Those are kind of the practical things that we've been trying to give as recommendations to those groups, because I don't know if you or anyone else in the group has heard many people and many student groups are getting frustrated that there's a lot of talk and a lot less action. So anything that could be developed towards that, especially from, if I'm representing the Canvas side of things, anything that could be put into a commons area that could be just implemented and help faculty meet these competencies, I guess is a term that is used quite a bit.
Thank you. I want to be mindful of the time, but would it be helpful if I shared the outline of the course? Do we have a moment for that? Or should we move on?
I think that would be helpful.
Okay.
So go ahead.
Thank you. So with the course, our beautiful Canvas LMS, and it's arranged in a different module for, a different module, 4 modules with a separate day for each. And one of the things that we wanted to be really intentional about as a team working on this was to integrate Utah-focused aspects of the equity conversations that are on. So, for example, in education, we incorporated some national assets along with some that are focused on our Utah story. And each day has 3 sections. The discover section, the understanding is that that's the main thing that everybody's going to participate in. A do section where folks are reminded and invited to participate in discussion if they're up for it. And many did. And then a deepen section, which had just more information again for folks who want to either take that time during the challenge or who want to go back later and go into a deeper dive on a given topic. I'm not going to scroll further down because I don't want to show you anybody's comment.
Hey, Jen, can I just jump in here and just mention that Nubia is the director of the Department of Multicultural Affairs, which is part of my department, is one of the agencies within my department. So before she assisted in rolling this out to the governor's office or the governor's cabinet, she had the members of my department kind of pilot it. And so we went through this 21-day challenge, and it really was rewarding. And I didn't really participate in the online conversations and discussions. It's not really my comfort zone, but it was definitely an opportunity for self-reflection and really for me to identify and examine my own unconscious biases. It was a really valuable experience to go through that process, even though I wasn't necessarily participating in the group discussion. It was a really valuable experience for me to kind of understand a little bit more about the issues, both locally and nationally, and my own place in that. So it was really valuable.
Oh, thank you. That's lovely to hear. I mean, we worked very hard to try to make it something that people can engage in from wherever they are, and it's not, and it's really, again, just about having a productive experience. Well, again, I'll put the link. We have an Asana form we have a form that you can fill out if your organization wants further information about this opportunity. And also, on our agenda, we have our annual report coming up, which does include discussions of many of the different EDI related activities that we have been working on in other departments as well throughout the year.
Thank you, Jen. Are there any other comments, questions for Jen? I think it's a great resource that, and that what I like is it's something that was developed here. I think that makes it will make it easier to share, and that. Well, let's go on with our agenda. Our next item is an update on a discussion on the Utah's online school library. And Laura, is that going to be you that's going to be leading that?
It's actually Tim, and while he's pulling that up, I'll just remind everyone. So we have different versions of Utah's online library. There's one for public education, one for academic libraries, and Tim's going to talk to you specifically about the one for the K-12 schools that we call Utah's Online School Library.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Laura. So I just pulled up this page that Laura just was mentioning these different categories of online library, and UEN is focused on the K-12 version as well as preschool. The preschool version used to be named Preschool Pioneer. It's now we've referred to it as Preschool Path. So, so in response to some community feedback, we've sort of taken a look at the how our community is accessing these reference materials. So this page that you're seeing here is the landing page that students, teachers, parents may get to once they're validated or authenticated. And that happens, just as a little background, in schools. We use an IP system to get students to this page. So if you're in a school, then there's no login. You automatically come to this landing page. If you're at home, then there you would see a login page at this point, and there's an at-home username and password, or login name and password, that we give out every year, and it just changes once a year. Actually, the login name never changes. The password changes once a year. And then we put that on bookmarks, we give it to teachers, to librarians, and they hand it out to the students to take home so they can access these materials at home. So one of the concerns that we've had brought up to us is that younger students potentially accessing resources that aren't necessarily age appropriate. So with this one landing page, you can see there's two resources, the resources from Gale and the resources from EBSCO, that these companies divide them up into age groups, right? So you can see elementary and middle school and high school references, both in Gale and in EBSCO. So all students see this landing page, and then can sort of choose here which they want, what they want to access. So the concern initially is that, hey, you know, a young student might go into the high school references and just access materials potentially that might not be age appropriate. So our idea that we're going to present to you guys today is to get some feedback on what our idea is, not only how to help guide students to more age appropriate page has been the same since I think about the beginning, and we've wanted to sort of redesign it a little bit to make it a little more user friendly. So we have a first draft for you to look at, and it looks like this. And so a couple of things. We're proposing to change the name to Utah's Online School Library to help differentiate it from the other two libraries out there, the academic library and the public library. Just to make that a little more clear of what it is and what it's designed for. And then we've created sort of guides or maybe pathways to help guide students to materials that are more appropriate. Now, there's no restriction here. We're not restricting access, so that younger student could still click on the high school resources, could still go there. So there's no restrictions here. It's just more of a guide. And then I'll put I accidentally put the link earlier in the chat to this landing page where it's not live for the public yet, but it is online, so you can go take a closer look at it. So this is the initial, what the landing page would look like if you're at school, right? So this would be the default page without a login. And at home, once you've logged in with the at-home username and password, you would get to this landing page. And then if you select one of these, so now the student or the parent gets to select what resource to go to. And so now this page is sort of unique for this category. And really the only real difference here is that now I'm just seeing the EBSCO elementary resources. I'm not seeing all the EBSCO resources. Same with Gale. I'm just seeing the Gale elementary resources. And the rest of the material is the same on each of the 3 sub pages. And these links aren't hooked up, so they don't function. It's just more of a, and then these other 2 categories, the Utah resources and the general resources, stay the same. They're the same across all students. We've also, one of our big deals is we get lots of emails with students asking about what the home access password is, and we've put it in a little more prominent place to make it a little easier to find when a student's at school. So with that said, we are looking for some feedback from this group. Is this a good idea? First, to divide up the resources so that we have these guides or these pathways to get to these resources, and how is the usability of this new look and feel? And we haven't, of course, we'll have a roll, if we decide to go with a redesign like this, we'll have a rollout and communication out to the community, so it's not shocking when for a librarian to go. We'll also be at UELMA doing some focus groups, asking for feedback and usability from the library community. And also, Christopher, just so you know, we'll be using all the WebAIM resources to make sure this is accessible. I don't think we've done too much work in that area yet on these initial drafts.
Good to hear. I'm happy to be a resource or help out with that if I can as well.
Well, great. Thank you. Hey, so the question is, should we be segmenting our resources, right? So here's what it looks like now, where students come in and can choose whichever one, which they can still do. It's just a little more guided, but not restricted. Should we create a system that actually restricts students so that elementary students only see elementary resources? And again, it's just those 2 categories, right? It's just the Gale and the EBSCO databases that would be, of course, creating a system like that would actually restrict students is a little more technical of a project. So that's the first question.
I have a question. So when you talk about age appropriate, what would a potentially an elementary student see that would not be age appropriate?
So in the high school, and again, that's sort of a big can of worms, right? To say, because it's not for us to say what's age appropriate. So in, say, the high school resources, some of the topics, right, that are in there, and the articles, where the articles are coming from, right? So the source of the article. And age appropriate might not be, it doesn't mean obscene, it just, and I would ask for as a media specialist to define some of these terms. that's where the complaints, some of the complaints have come. There haven't been a lot of complaints, of course, but where, say, you know, a fourth grader accessing, you know, articles and doing research, say, on a topic like abortion, which, as you know, a teacher or a parent might think that would be not appropriate for them to stumble upon. Anybody else want to take a shot at that, answering that question?
Well, I'll also just add that we had some feedback that high school students were kind of turned off by having things like Boys Life and Cricket and some really elementary focused journals in their collections. And so they're there, especially for people that are reading at a lower level. But yeah, it kind of goes the other way too, that we wanted to encourage high school students to become really good researchers by having rigorous tools and databases available for them and not things that are too elementary.
So if I get this correctly, then if I, in these pathways, and first I really like the landing page idea. I think it's much more user friendly and will actually probably increase usage. If I choose elementary and then I choose EBSCO from the elementary, I get a certain set of databases that would be different from if I chose that different pathway. If I did middle school. Excellent.
Yeah, no, that's exactly true. Like, and even so, if I click on, say, this Gale elementary page, Gale has created themselves a landing page designed for this age group.
Right.
Right. And so we're not changing that. That's how it's always been. Right. And so the resources and the where these articles are coming from are all chosen by Gale, right, to be appropriate for this age group, and not just appropriate, but more you know, the reading levels, and like Laura said, where these articles are coming from, and the design is definitely more for that age group. And it's the same thing if I were to choose EBSCO High School, you know, here's the list of EBSCO databases for, this is all of them actually. But I can go into any of these and access well, any of our students could go into any of these. So we're not restricting access to any of it. We're just sort of guiding students. And so instead of coming to this page and having to choose, oh, what should I pick? Should I pick middle school or high school? You know, it's sort of a big list where these landing pages, they pick here. So they know, oh, all the stuff, if I go to elementary, then everything here is sort of designed and organized for elementary aged students.
And I see that you do cross-reference to e-media as well in each of these. I think that's important.
Yeah.
So, oh, I see. So you have EBSCO Elementary and then EBSCO Educator. What's the difference between, just out of curiosity, what's the difference between those libraries?
So the Educator is the materials for teachers, specifically for the public school teacher, where EBSCO Elementary is for the student to do research.
Mm-hmm.
So like for the, you know, we can look at the Educator one, right, that it's, you know, lesson plans, standards, resources for educators. It's not as much, you know, database research. Where the elementary one, right, is definitely, hey, here's the stuff for elementary kids to do research.
I really love the landing page. I think it looks great. And I like the fact that you're guiding students towards age-appropriate materials. I think that will satisfy, or I think that parents will feel a little bit better about that. But at the same time, I'm glad that you're not restricting access to some of the others as elementary school student, I was an advanced reader, and I remember librarians not letting me check out certain materials because I was looking at 6th grade materials instead of 1st grade materials, and I had to have my mother send a note saying I could check out things because I could read it. So I'm glad that those things aren't being restricted, but I like the organization, so it kind of helps guide the students in certain directions. I think it looks really nice.
Thanks, Marie.
One of the questions that I wanted to ask all of you, especially those of you that have experience with younger kids, Tim, can you click on the elementary secondary page? Yeah. So when you're teaching kids about all these different databases, when I first looked at it, first of all, I love the colors and things, but I thought the pictures might be confusing. And so I was thinking about changing the pictures so that you could, if you're teaching students, you could say, oh, click on the one with the bee or click on the one with the flower, so that they're a lot more distinguishable from each other, if that makes sense. Feedback on that, or am I overthinking it?
This is Laura. Again, the landing page looks lovely. It just really looks so user-friendly, and teachers will be able to help students or parents to access. I do like the idea of having a picture there, because when you are doing a group lesson or even with small students, you can easily say, point to the picture of the guitar, or you have the purple flowers. I think that's a great idea as well for ease of use. Thank you.
Okay, no, that's good. That's good feedback for sure. And I like that, Laura, having these pictures a little more logo-like, maybe. You know, maybe not logos, but that stay the same, right? So EBSCO Elementary is always a B.
Right. Tiffany, you're putting great comments in the chat. I don't know if you want to verbalize those or just keep typing. Thanks for the input, everybody.
Yeah, and I'll stop sharing, but I'll put my email in the chat, and the link to this draft page is also in the chat. So if you want to take a look at it later, or you want to email me directly any feedback or suggestions, I would love that. Thank you.
Thank you. I am really excited to see this. I think that honestly, this is something I'm surprised we haven't done it sooner. It just makes total sense, and I think the landing page for the online library has been the same for a long time, and that, so I think it's really a good thing, and I think. And I guess maybe just a quick question, Tim. So would it be possible would it have to be system wide, or would it be possible that if a school really wanted to say, oh, we only want to have access to the elementary resources, could we segment that out, that school could just make it for their students when they're in school? I mean, I know with home access is a different story, but if they want to,
there's not a system like that in place. I mean, that's one of the things that is on the table. Of course, that's a much different technological solution, right? To categorize the IP addresses and then also know what school those IP addresses coming from and what age group, and then being able to just verify that and send them one of the sub pages. What I see, you know, well, I haven't been in schools lately, but in the past, it's really common for the school, at least in their computer labs and on their laptop labs or mobile labs, to set the home page of the browser to the online library. That's pretty common. So a school could even do it themselves, right? They could just set the home page at an elementary school. They could set the home page to go to that elementary sub page. I mean, anybody could do that, right? They could do that, but yeah, if we wanted to explore the other option to give schools the choice, I'm sure we could figure that out.
well, you know, I mean, we have had a few sensationalized stories in the last year that, you know, of and that it may be for some, it may be a way to mitigate some of that scrutiny that they, you know, that seems to be, you know, that seems to be out there. I just, you know, I don't think it's something we need to worry about now. I think hopefully the best way is to teach people and to make them, you know, to create those pathways and just to make it easy to follow that pathway that would lead them to the appropriate resources. Okay, well, let's continue on. Thank you. Our next update is on a broadcast update, and Laura, I'm not sure who's doing that.
It's me.
Oh, I should have just said Laura's going to do that. I had
Just a few things to share and then to get some feedback from you. So the first thing is just a reminder and question. So every month we put together highlights that are thematic programs for the month, and I pulled up the one for February so you can get an idea of what that looks like. We could use some help in getting the word out to people about this. We're going to have some programs coming up that fit with different academic areas. One of those is a new series that will be starting March 1st called Litflix. And for years, we've been doing Sci-Fi Friday, as you're aware, I think, and showing a really campy sci-fi movie and then having researchers and scientists kind of debunk the science. And I think there's been about 300 or so scientists in Utah that have been featured, most from higher ed, some from industry, that have been featured on that. And so switching now to Litflix, which will be films based on literature, either books or plays. And Jen, if you're still on, you're welcome to jump in and say a little bit more about that. This is a project that Jen is managing. So it'll start the beginning of March. Yeah, Jen.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to put the link to the website in the chat. It's in process, so it's a rough draft, but you can see what films we have lined up and some of the developments we have. We have many of our public libraries excited to participate in this partnership with us. They're going to be a critical part of the community engagement piece. And we're also in discussion with Utah State Library's Book Buzz program. So lots more activity, and I can give you a nice report on where we're at our next meeting, but you can check out that link. And again, it launches March 1st, and March 4th will be our first air date for our Women of Mystery Month in alignment with Women's History Month. So hope you check it out and let Laura or I know if you have any questions or you're interested in more information.
So I was in the UTTC meeting yesterday, a higher ed committee meeting, and mentioned this too, and we could really use help with getting the word out in different departments or student clubs, the humanities department. So I made that request of the committee yesterday, and this morning I woke up to an email from a professor who's a medievalist, a medieval literature expert who is volunteering to help and have his students involved. So we think that there's a lot of connections with public libraries and higher ed in particular, and really would welcome your help in getting the word out and getting the right contacts in our database so that we make sure we're helping to communicate about that. The second thing I wanted to talk about past the February highlights.
Laura, will it be like bookmarks or something, you know, just material that we can distribute that would advertise this as well?
Yes, and Jen's working on that, and also with a lot of input from the public libraries. So the public libraries have their summer reading programs that are kids and adults and teens, goes all of the ages. This summer it's going to be ocean themed, so we're programming Litflix movies that connect with the ocean theme that the libraries will be doing in the summer, things like that. But yes, there will be some collateral and video spots, social media, all of that. So in your materials, you'll also see a link to the weekly schedule. And I know the Olympics just started, so we're not high on the TV viewing list this next couple of weeks. But just a reminder that we always have the weekly schedule for all 3 of the channels on our website. And that brings me to the last thing to get some input on. So we have an empty channel 9.2. And right now it just has a picture of our logo, which is not very exciting. So we had the idea to start putting NASA TV on the broadcast channel. So NASA TV is a free public service, part of our federal government and part of NASA's obligation to communicate research to the general public. And so they have a full 24/7 TV program or TV schedule that has some live activities, some interviews, symposia, that kind of thing. It's all streamed online and you can see it on YouTube just to watch the live stream. We would be the first to put it onto over-the-air broadcast in the country. And so I'm interested in input on that. If you have ideas of how we should be utilizing that resource and sharing that with members of the community, especially people that aren't able to tune into a live video feed of what's happening at NASA. It would be over broadcast television, so they could just turn it on at any time. So any discussion and input on that is very welcome. And that's the rest of my report, unless there's questions or ideas that you have.
Well, I'm really in favor of NASA TV. I've watched it before just online, and there's some really interesting things, particularly if, there's some, so if they're doing something special or they've got some new thing that, that they're launching and that you're right there with it. So I think with the Lit Flicks and this, you've got one that's a humanities, language arts, and then you're also providing another science resource. I think that's great. So looks like you just popped it up here to see what's going on.
I echo that. I'm very excited about both of these moves.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, thank you. And Diana, you've worked in media for a long time, and so to have your endorsement is really valuable too. So thank you for the input.
No, I'm very excited.
Yeah. I really like the idea of the Lit Flicks, and I love the themes that you can theme around. You can use themes in that. I think that's just going to be, I think it'll become very popular. Particularly, I think, with a lot of, I could see a lot of high school classes in that taking advantage of that too. So yes, we need to get the word out. Great. Well, thank you for that update. Our next item is simply some committee reports. So first we have the UTTC, and C Forum is actually meeting today, and I don't think Clint's here, so I don't think we'll have a report from them, other than they're meeting up in Davis District today. And then we'll have the Utah Academic Library Consortium. I can update a little bit on the TCC, and then anything from state libraries. So we'll go in that order. And I can't remember who was doing the UTTC. If there's anything they would like to share.
Yeah, it's Jason. Jason is the chair of the UTTC group, and we just met yesterday. So I don't know, Jason, if you're able to do a quick summary. If not, I know Oliver was in attendance and I was too, so happy to jump in.
Yeah, I'm just pulling up my notes right now. If you want to get started, that would be great.
Well, I'll actually skip ahead. The Utah Academic Library Consortium is represented by Leslie, and she couldn't be here. So we can probably skip that one. Rick, do you want to do a report on the TCC, or Scott on the TCC, and then we can go back to Jason?
Yeah, Scott, you want to share what we just did?
You bet. So we just had a very successful winter tech retreat. We met in Bryce at Ruby's there and had some great information shared. I thought the format was good. We called it a silent conference where we used broadcasting to FM radios, and everyone had their own FM radio and headsets and could listen in to the different sessions that were going on around kind of the Ebenezer's room there. It's a big barn kind of area, so it was great that we could use that technology to be in a large space, but still make it feel very controlled and be able to provide that input. We had excellent keynotes from Superintendent Dave Long and Cody Spenlove, who's retired from Alpine School District. Also Michael Hakkarainen from UETN and John Arthur, the Teacher of the Year from Salt Lake School District. I felt like it was well attended, and I felt like those who were in attendance took good information away. I certainly benefited from being there.
And I would echo that. It was a really good event, and it's probably the most unique conference because everybody's in the same space, and you have 6 sort of like booths, but with the FM radios, you can be sitting in one booth and it's like you're just in your own room. It works. That's all I can say is it's a unique conference experience. It probably would not work outside of in the Wasatch Front because I think there'd be too much interference across the radio. But being down at Bryce Canyon, there's not a whole lot of radio stations, so we were able to program 6 different stations and broadcast those. But we have everybody together, and whether you're sitting in a booth or just sitting out in the main, the main area with all the tables and that, you can still be listening to any session at any time. Jason, do you want to just give a little bit on the UTTC?
Yeah, thanks for your patience on allowing me to pull that up. So we started off the discussion by reviewing notes from our last meeting, and we definitely need, I guess, stronger CIO, CAO representation. That was the main concern there, and I believe Shelley Bellflower is going to follow up with Steve Hess on that topic. And then we moved on to discussing our current software contracts that we have in place and those that may be coming up for renewal and whether or not we want to go to RFP. One of the bigger ones was the Proctorio piece, the proctoring software. And without going into too much detail, we are of the mindset that we want to go to RFP again on that to see what options are out there to allow for better licensing and perhaps a better experience overall for the students. Shelley also brought up a concern that I think some of us are feeling with having to pay with our own funds for stuff that CARES and HERF money has paid for when those items come up for renewal. So what kind of strategy do we have in place to replace equipment that was purchased, and how do we start planning ahead for that? And then we also discussed kind of collaborating together and for Canvas Data 2.0, which is supposed to launch later this year. So some of our institutions have stronger developers or stronger areas that can develop. And so we're going to try to pair those with those who may not have those kind of resources on campus to see if we can get all institutions on the same footing for utilizing the Canvas data aspect of our LMS. So I think those are the main points. Anything, Laura or Christopher, who was also there, or Oliver, that I'm overlooking? I guess maybe Christopher and Oliver had it cut out. No, Oliver's still here.
Don't think so. Covered it well. Except for all of our new quizzes, firing up about new quizzes in Canvas.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I don't know if anybody on the calls followed new quizzes with Instructure and Canvas, but they did allow us to use the classic version of quizzes through June 2024, which gives us more time to adopt new quizzes as that product continues to mature, hopefully, and allows us to not feel the pressure of, jumping from one platform to another in the middle of what we're all going through with the pandemic and everything. So
I love the idea that they use classic quizzes. It reminded me of classic Coke back in the 80s.
Yeah.
So,
that's awesome.
Thank you.
I'll just jump in with one thing that I think would be helpful. So first of all, Jason ran a great meeting. We covered a lot in a short time, and it's a really collegial group. One of the things that I thought was interesting is that there's concern over the cost of the proctoring software that's being used, and also equity concerns with the proctoring software. And so a couple of the institutions talked about how they're actually encouraging faculty and providing support for faculty to use alternative assessment and not rely on the proctoring software and proctored exams as much. And so I thought that was a really interesting development, that they'll be able to share the resources they're using with faculty about authentic assessment and alternative assessments different from quizzes and exams. And I just thought that was an interesting development, and part of why I like that the committee all works together across all the institutions.
Yeah, thanks, Laura. That was an excellent summary. And yeah, it's definitely something that's our Office of Academic Affairs is going to work with Student Affairs to kind of see where that intersection is. Where does reading and memorizing and regurgitating end, and some other form of assessment begin, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I was just going to mention, sorry to jump in on there, Jason, but just wanted to mention the piece about contracts and CARES funding and everything. Jen has been great with sharing, which products we need to be concerned about once all this CARES funding does dry up. And we talked a little bit about that, but I know the universities are very concerned because some things are covered by UEN, but they're covered by UEN using CARES funding. So at some point, those are going to end, and that responsibility will come back our direction. And I know there is a spreadsheet that Jen sends out to help us out with those things. But I know just from the university's perspective, I mean, all the assistance that's provided by UEN for so many things, some of it is ongoing funding. Some of it, like Canvas, is maybe a legislative ask for higher ed. And wrapping our brains around what's continuing and what we need to be aware of and put into our budgets is a big concern too.
Thank you all. And I was just going to mention that C-Forum, the content forum, which is made up of technology trainers and coaches and mentors and innovation specialists, and they're meeting today up in Davis District. I think for Laura, that's got to be somewhat heartwarming. This is what, 21 years now that they've been meeting. I think it was an idea that Laura had, and thank you. I think, and it's this year I think we've had more attendees than ever before. We're probably in the neighborhood of 60 plus that attend each meeting, so it's only growing, which is great to see. State libraries. Was there any report there?
I have a couple of things that may be of interest. First of all, the Blind Library, which is a program within the state library. I'm not sure how many of you are really familiar with that. They offer services to give audiobooks and large print and braille to people with either visual disabilities, but also those ebooks are people with physical disabilities that make it difficult for them to hold a book, or even some learning disabilities that those services are available for them as well. And they're making a shift more towards a digital-based offering for those ebooks. It used to be that they would have cartridges with a single book on them, and the patrons would check out those cartridges, but they're shifting to a more digital online environment where they can load up a different type of cartridge with up to 40 different titles. And so patrons are calling in and requesting different books, and they can load up a lot more material at a much lower cost, and it's much more efficient. So they're really excited about that shift. We'd really like to let more people be aware of that service. I think sometimes it's a little bit misleading because it's called the Blind Library, but it is very helpful to people with physical or learning disabilities as well. So that's something that's kind of exciting that's happening here at the State Library. Also, we are doing an RFP for a new online learning platform. Some of you may be aware of the Learning Express product that was maintained by UEN through Utah Futures. And when they lost funding for it, the State Library was able to secure a 2-year contract to continue that resource. That contract is up in the end of June this year. So we've just published an RFP to look for, to either renew that product or to look for a similar product. So we've put out feelers or let vendors like BrainFuse and Tutor.com, as well as EBSCO Learning Express, and Gale has a similar product called Peterson Test Prep. We're hoping to get some responses from all of those vendors. So in the next 6 months or so, we may have a different product. Because I know that that's used by K-12 as well as academics and resident public library patrons as well. So just a heads up that there may be a change coming there. And that's all I have from the State Library.
Thank you. Just a couple of other information items on recent video productions. You can see that they've released a number of those. Laura, anything you want to add to those?
Well, I think every single one is great, but I would especially encourage you to watch the Humans of UETN. It's the second in our series that features our UETN employees, and I think you'll enjoy it.
Yeah. And then anything you wanted to say about the annual report, other than it's available?
It is available. Jen Gibbs also coordinated this project, and it's a requirement because we are funded through the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, but I think it's a great requirement because it's a nice way to summarize all the work from 2021. So you'll see a link to that in the materials. And then we also have hard copy available if you have a committee or other people that you think would benefit from reading that summary. We like to say that the information booklet that Ray distributes to the legislature is kind of quantitative. It has a lot of data and budget information, and this is really the qualitative side of our work, the stories and photos, and I think you'll really enjoy it.
It's Laura, and I've seen a lot of these over the years. Very impressive, and a great ambassador and representation of all the great work that's done. So very, very good. Thanks. Congratulations to you and Jen.
Thank you. This leads us to our last item, which is our roundtable, and this is just an opportunity if any of you have any questions or anything you would like to share with the group. So I'll just open it up. Any items that you wanted to maybe learn more about that we didn't address in today's meeting, or any concerns or questions that you might have?
I'm just overall curious, with this being an election year, are there any, do you know of any initiatives or things that UEN or UETN will be involved around elections, either within the schools or the community?
Yeah, good question. And I know you're referring to, in the past, we've collaborated on Vote Utah. I have no idea, to be honest. We've been really focused on other things. And I kind of feel like the Olympics snuck up on me too, and we have content for that. So yeah, good question, but
oh, we got a lot of time. We got time. I was just curious.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Diana. Others?
Friends, Tony down here at SUU. We're looking for 2 teacher educators and 1 principal educator. If you've got any good teacher candidates that would like to teach teachers or train principals, please stir 'em my way.
Well, that's probably enough pause at the end of end of this. Um, just note that our next meeting will be April 1st. No fooling. So, and we'll look forward to seeing you all then. Again, we'll be meeting virtually like this. I want to just thank all of the UEN staff, that have been with us today. Thank you so much for all that you do to help us educate children and adults at all levels. We could not do this without you. And truly, whenever I have the opportunity, I always say we are very fortunate in Utah to have UEN. Most states, after they hear me talk about UEN, are just jealous that we have such a great resource. So thank you for the great work and support you are to what we do. We couldn't do it without you. With that, we will adjourn our meeting until our next meeting again on Friday, April 1st. Have a great rest of the day and a great weekend. Stay warm.
Thank you.